Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Nelson Vasquez with the Kills Health live stream. Uh, it is 3 o'clock on the 21st of October, 2025. Thank you for being here. And if you don't mind putting in the chat where you're watching from, and we're going to have, oh, we might give away something. I just don't know yet because I forgot to ask the doctor who's here with us right now, but we'll ask him in a second. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. United Carnivore, Lorraine, Main Runner, Rick, Brody, Don, and everybody else who's tuning in. I'm going to bring my guest, and I am going to read a little bit about his bio here. We're talking today to Dr. Michael Biamonte. Hope that was close to good.
Pretty good.
Doctor.
Yep, pretty good.
All right. So he is the founder of the Biamonte Center for Clinical Nutrition. He is a co-creator of Biocybernetics, which is an unprecedented computer software program that is able to study blood work, mineral tests, and many other lab tests to determine exactly where your body is in balance, initially designed for aerospace purposes. As a practitioner for over 30 years, he's dedicated to improving the lives of his patients and helping them back to living. He holds a doctorate of nutropathy. He's a New York State certified clinical nutritionist. He is also a member of the International and American Association of Clinical Nutritionists, the American College of Nutrition, and is a member of the Scientific Advisory Board for the Clinical Nutrition Certification Board. He's listed in the Directory of Distinguished Americans for his research in nutrition and physiology. So, welcome, Dr. Michael Biamonte. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you.
All righty. Uh, so, I'm not sure. Did you already do carnivore conversations with Dr. Kills at some point or not?
I don't think so.
You know, okay.
No.
I think Alia was trying to schedule you as well for that. Uh, we also have a live stream every morning, Monday through Friday, here on YouTube at 6 a.m. and then Tuesdays and Thursdays at this time, plus multiple Zoom calls within the community. So you're welcome to visit with us again at any of those times. Alia can send you the details.
Oh, I'd be happy to. I'm very familiar with the carnivore diet for many reasons. First is a lot of my patients have candida overgrowth, and a carnivore diet is, or a low carb diet, however we want to call it, but it is essentially a carnivore diet, is essential for them to get well because they're not going to get well eating carbs. And then a lot of patients are blood type O's like I am, and blood type O's should be eating a carnivore diet.
So is this I was reading something about a giveaway. That is this something that we can email and get a digital copy of the Candida Chronicles and 5-phase treatment?
Yeah, we have we have an email that we give out to patients if they email me and request it. It's a synopsis of my book, The Candida Chronicles, plus additional information that's going to be in the new book that's going to come out on Candida.
All right. So I'm going to post that in the chat for anyone who's watching right now or watching later. You can click on that in the chat, and you will receive an email back from Dr. Biamonte.
There, there's also a lot of data on thyroid, the connection between thyroid function and candida in the new book, and that's also included in the email.
Very good, very good. So, uh, go ahead and introduce yourself. With I read a little bit of the bio that you had sent me, your assistant sent me, but go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your own story and your way of eating, and then we can go on to talk about some of these topics. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. uh, I am there are already questions that I see, so please put them in the chat, and I'll bring them up for Dr. Biamonte to go over them. Go ahead.
Okay. So when I got out of naturopathic school, I met up with a fellow who worked at Grumman Aerospace. And this is actually the man who had designed the life support systems on the lunar module. And I found out that he was also a naturopath and he was a clinical nutritionist. A- And he explained to me what he was doing currently. He was working with a team of aerospace physiologists, and what they were doing were they were designing a computer software program that would be able to analyze blood results, blood tests on the astronauts in order to balance their chemistries when they were in the space station for months at a time. So he invited me to come and meet everybody, and I came. I met them. They showed me the model that they had, and I was just fascinated with this. And they invited me to come and participate and to be one of the contributors, which I did. And I was working with them for about 5 years, and I got to meet a lot of the famous nutritionists back in the 70s and 80s. Um, Carlton Fredericks and Bob Atkins, and because a lot of those doctors were contributing. And they were kind of the forefront of nutrition. Adele Davis, all those people, they were the founders of the modern nutritional movement. So what we were doing essentially was we were gathering physiological data and putting it in the computer in a type of computer language that allowed us to be able to just simply move blocks around rather than having to rewrite the whole program. So if we found some new physiological datum, we put it in the appropriate place. The computer, this and this interesting thing is this was the probably the earliest form of artificial intelligence that we've had. But the computer would teach itself after we gave it new data, and it would realign everything. And the bottom line of what would happen here is you would get a blood test, like an SMA-26 or something on patient, and you would input the data into the computer, and the computer would then take that data and run a simulation, like a mock simulation of the person's physiological functions, their cellular biology, and everything. And then it would look for errors. It would look for places where their metabolic functions were breaking down, and it would look to see what nutrients supported that function. So it would then recommend the nutrient. So let's say it found an error in the person's Krebs cycle and their coenzyme A was crashing. So it would look in its informational bank, and it would find that pantothenic acid is the precursor to the coenzyme A. So it would then recommend pantothenic acid to try to fix that. And then the person would come back and do a new blood test in like a month or two, and the computer would look at what the new test said, what the old test said, what it gave them, and it would make its next recommendations based on whether or not that worked or how well it worked. So we were running this program for about 5 years, and we were getting really great successes with people who were volunteering to go through the program. People with different ailments, diabetes, arthritis, whatever, they were getting better by getting their body actually really balanced. But we noticed that there was like 30% of the people who, when they took vitamins, would have crazy reactions. And upon interviewing them, we found out they had the same reactions with drugs and medications. So I decided to find out what was up with these people. Why did they have crazy reactions like this to vitamins? So after about a year and a half of researching, um, looking into their particular biochemistry, their blood tests, looking for patterns that they had in common, I found out all these people had candida. They had either candida overgrowth or candida with leaky gut syndrome. And that's how I got involved with them researching candida.
Very good. So I already have a couple of questions. I'm going to go ahead and pull one up. Uh, Let me see. Terry B is asking, Dr. Biamonte, did I hear right? You are a musician. What role does music play in your life these days? Did I read?
Yes,
Okay.
you're all correct.
Okay.
I originally no one has mentioned that. This person probably found that in my background somewhere.
Okay.
But yes, it is true. I went to Nassau Community College and to Hofstra University and became a music major. And I graduated with a bachelor's degree in music. I was a classical guitar major, but I was a famous guitar teacher on Long Island back in those days. I had like about 125 students.
Mhm.
And so it is true. This is what I was doing before I was a doctor. And now what the role that music plays for me now is I like to improvise mostly because I was a jazz guitarist. I studied with Dom Manassi and Pat Martino and a lot of the really hip jazz guitar players. So I just like to I will hear something like a little bit of music from someplace and I'll take whatever that little bit is and I'll just improvise on it for a few hours. That's how I relax.
Good. Uh, and you're from Long Island. I was just telling you backstage that I did my training in Nassau County, in Glen Cove, for those that are familiar with Long Island. And Dr. Biamonte is from Valley Stream, which is also in Long Island. Uh, Basically, getting into Long Island at the very beginning, on the north and the south, you run into Glen Cove or the road for Glen Cove, and you run into Valley Stream on the south. By the way, you also mentioned Queens backstage. My wife was born
Hmm.
in the Bronx and raised in Queens. And okay, one very important question: Mets fan or Yankee fan?
Ah, tough call. When I was growing up, I was a diehard Met fan for quite a long time. I probably attended almost every game in 1986 for the 86 champion season. Now I tend to follow both teams, the Mets and the Yankees, but I was originally a diehard Mets fan. I had quite a few of the Mets as patients over the years.
I'm quite a baseball fan. I watch any game, but I am a diehard Mets fan, and I should have brought out my picture with Felix Millan that I have. He's my friend, personal
Oh,
friend.
well, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Anyways, so and I know we have at least one other Mets fan here. He can out himself. All right, I
Okay.
do have another question here. Uh, why should blood type O not be on,
Not be a
not be a
carnivore. No, you
carnivore?
you
Did
definitely
I miss?
you misheard that.
Yeah.
A blood type O is a carnivore. Essentially, how the blood types. I got this data firsthand because I studied with Dr. Diadamo, not Peter Diadamo. I studied with his father, who's the originator of all the Eat Right for Your Blood Type data. Um, a blood type O is essentially a carnivore, or paleo, if you want to think of the paleo diet, which is the hunter-gatherer diet. That is the blood type O. The blood type A is more a vegetarian. They lean more towards a diet higher in grains and vegetables, more like India or Asia, China. And the blood type B is a Mediterranean diet. Those are basically the way the blood types break down.
All right. Uh, so I do see that my friend Lois is a Mets fan, by the way. My blood type is
Oh,
O
there you go.
plus. Uh, my opinion is if your blood type is red, you can eat carnivore. But uh, all right, so
I've had some very interesting discussions on that with Gary Null. I don't know if you know who Gary Null is, but Gary Null believes everyone should be a vegetarian, But in his book, The Complete Vegetarian, he makes it a point to emphasize that our teeth are that of an omnivore. So we don't have the teeth of vegetarians. We don't have the teeth of carnivores. We have the teeth of an omnivore, and an omnivore is meant to eat a little bit of everything. But I think where your blood type comes from, your blood type is essentially your genetics. So if your blood type is O, you hail from areas on the planet where they were hunter gatherers and they had a large amount of animal protein in their diet, and your body genetically adapts to that over hundreds of years. Because I know that if I have patients who are type O's, and if they don't eat enough red meat, you can see their BUN levels in their blood start to drop. BUN is blood urea nitrogen, and this is a blood chemistry which tells you about the amino acid pool in your liver. And if you don't get enough red meat as a blood type O, your amino acid levels are going to drop. Now, it's not true with type A's because I've studied type A's, and type A's can keep their blood urea nitrogen level normal eating a vegetarian diet.
So it seems our talking a little bit ancestrally, it seems that our teeth have changed a little bit over the thousands of years. But isn't it true that our gastrointestinal system is, even though we're up, I agree with you, we're omnivores, but I think in most places of the planet we ate a meat heavy diet, and many of the fruits, vegetables that they ate probably was only seasonal for short periods of time. And our GI system, like our stomach pH, is closer to to carnivore animals than to herbivores, certainly, and some other omnivores.
Yeah, there are different points. There are different talking points that we can look at that where I would agree with you. But our GI tract is a bit longer than your typical carnivore. It's a little bit more resembling a vegetarian, but yet you're right. Our teeth have changed to be a little bit more of omnivore. Stomach acid is definitely that of a carnivore. But on the other hand, the argument that I always make is, what if you take an Eskimo and you bring him down to the Caribbean and you put him on a diet of tropical fruits and all these things? He's not going to do very well.
Huh.
You see,
He'll become
his
diabetic.
body's
He'll become
evolved.
diabetic very
Yep,
soon.
diabetic before you know it. And the same thing in reverse. If you take someone who lives in the tropics and that's where his ancestors are, and you have him go all the way up to the Arctic or someplace where he's going to live on whale blubber and raw fish, he's not going to do too well either. So there is a point of looking at what your ancestors have been doing.
I I had diabetes for a long time. For the past almost 2 years, my average A1C has been about 5.4. Uh, I am mostly carnivore. I don't do very well if I try to add my typical foods from Puerto Rico. I grew up eating, all the tropical fruits and
Hmm.
the starch heavy diet that we have with different roots that we eat and rice and beans. Uh, I I can no longer tolerate my own typical diet.
Yeah.
I would
Well,
be in a diabetic coma. First of all, I would be this, which I was for about 40 years.
mhm.
Okay. Uh, so you mentioned supplementation when you were talking about the acetyl CoA and the precursor. So talk to us a little bit about supplementation and when it's right and which way is the right way to supplement.
Well, I'm very opinionated on this due to 40 years of experience, and the only correct way to supplement is by testing and seeing what you need. I've had many people come to me who are haphazardly taking nutrients, and they created all types of wild imbalances in their system. The best story, I think, one of my best stories, is a medical doctor who came to me when I was first out of school, and he was referred by a chiropractor. And this fellow had a prostate problem. And he had read in the literature that zinc was good for your prostate. So he started taking zinc. He was taking the zinc for 3 years. His prostate had been perfect. ever since he started taking the zinc. But he noticed his prostate problem starting to return. And he couldn't figure it out because he was taking the zinc every day. So he says, well, I'll double the zinc. So he doubled the zinc, and the prostate problem got double worse. So that's when he was referred to me. The first thing I told him when I heard the story was I said, stop the zinc and start taking copper. And then I did a hair mineral test on him. And sure enough, he had taken so much zinc that he had driven his copper grossly deficient. Now, copper is the element in your body that protects you against bacterial infections. So, what this fellow had done is he created a copper deficiency that caused a prostate infection because that was his weaker area, having been weak for many years. So he stopped the zinc. He started taking the prostate. The prostate returned to normal. And after that, I told him, you have to take the copper and the zinc in balance with each other. You can't just take one. But this was a typical medical doctor type thinking, where he was just going to take zinc because that's what the reference said. It was only about zinc. Didn't say anything about balancing nutrients. So, moral of the story is, if you take supplements without knowing what you're doing, and I can talk about this for hours. If you take too much vitamin C or vitamin B1, you can cause a calcium deficiency. You can cause osteoporosis. If you take too much manganese, you can cause a vitamin E deficiency. If you don't have enough copper and manganese in your tissues, your body doesn't utilize vitamin C. And I could go on and on and on, because for every nutrient and vitamin, there is a synergy, but there is also a bit of a competition that occurs between them. And you've got to know what you're doing when you take supplements.
So patients very often are under the impression that more is always better, right? And even some healthcare professionals might be under that impression. Well, if a little bit is good, a lot of it might be good. And basically, what you're saying is, no, it isn't that way, because you might run into problems. Uh,
Yeah, well, this could be true. This viewpoint can be true for a short period of time, but not for a long period of time. Like, for instance, if someone has a cold, I could easily recommend anybody with a cold to take vitamin C every hour, 1,000 milligrams an hour, and they'll see their symptoms improve because vitamin C acts like a natural antihistamine. If your sinuses are dripping because you have a viral infection in your sinus, your influenza, let's say, and you've got this really bad runny nose, if you take 50,000 units of vitamin A every day for a few days, that will help that, because vitamin A is a very powerful antiviral nutrient. But you can't do that every day, month after month, year after year, without getting tested to see where your levels are, because you'll create an imbalance. The vitamin companies fostered this incorrect rumor that because vitamins were natural and safe, you could take as much as you wanted and it would just, your body would get rid of what it didn't need. And that's partially true. Your body will get rid of what it doesn't need. You'll get diarrhea if you take too much magnesium and you don't need it. What they don't tell you is that while it's getting rid of what you don't need, it's also getting rid of a lot of other things that your body does need. It's causing an imbalance. So the only real safe way for someone to take supplements is to get tested and see what they need. And then you need to get tested maybe twice a year to make sure that you're still on the right line. Because if you don't test, you don't know. And there is I think there's significant evidence in our day today that you do need to take supplements, because we're not living in the same world we were living in a few hundred years ago. The amount of pollution and the amount, just if you just listen to Robert F.K. Jr. for a few hours, the amount of junk that your body's exposed to with packaged foods and what's in the air and what's in your water, you do need to take supplements because you need higher levels of antioxidants and nutrients to protect yourself. But you have to get tested, because with taking those supplements comes the responsibility of making sure you're taking them correctly and you're not overdoing something that's going to throw you out of balance.
I I agree with everything you've said here. Uh, Now, you have been doing telemedicine basically for a while. Uh,
20 years. Yeah.
and but do you see people from anywhere in the States?
No, not anymore. I only do telemedicine now.
Yeah, but the other party, can they be anywhere?
Oh yeah, I've had people in Japan, India, Saudi
Okay.
Arabia, England, Ireland,
All
everywhere.
right. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, where was the best place for them to find you?
Easiest thing is to go to one of my three websites, the New York City Thyroid Doctor, the New York City Candida Doctor, or my main website, which is health-truth.com.
Okay. And I'm going to post the website in the chat. All right. Uh, I just posted in the chat health-truth.com. Uh, you had mentioned, of course, that you were same state where I am in Florida. So we do have quite a few people, even in the chat right now, from Florida. But if anyone wants to reach out to Dr. Biamonte, I put the website there, and you can make your way to him through the website there. All right. Uh, you personally, you said you have mostly a carnivore way of eating. Uh,
Yes.
have have you found any benefits from eating that way, or have you found
Uh,
any downsides from eating any other way, and that's why you stick with carnivore?
Tell you a true story. When I was in school for nutrition, I was a vegan, and I had a very good friend who was a fairly well-known jazz pianist in Manhattan who was also a vegan, and we were basically hanging out together a lot, going to clubs, and we would eat often together. After about 4 years of being a vegan, I started to get strange twitching in my muscles, just uncontrollable twitching. And he was getting a similar thing, which was starting to affect his piano playing. So I went into to class one morning and I asked Dr. Diadamo about this. And I told him what was happening. So he asked me if I knew my blood type, and I wasn't sure. But he looked at me and he said, "You know, you and your friend are both probably type O's." He said, "I want you to go home and you and your friend for the next week eat liver every day. Eat about 8 ounces of liver at minimum every day, both you guys. Come back next week to class and then tell me how you're doing." Well, the first night we sat down to eat this liver, it was like like a revelation occurred. I couldn't believe it. And my tics, twitches, and tremors went away in about 48 hours after eating the liver. And the same thing was true of my friend. Tics and tremors were gone. We then found out from our parents, and we were eating vegan, which for a type O is like suicide. So this was the lesson that I learned. For me personally, is that I needed to eat meat. I was a carnivore. Then I started studying my blood chemistries when I was in college, and my optimal blood chemistries occurred when I was eating meat. I had an associate who was a chiropractor, very famous chiropractor in New York. He owned a string of like 5 or 6 offices. He was very heavy. He was about over like 350 pounds. His cholesterol was over 400. His triglycerides were over 600. I put him on the Atkins diet, and in 2 months, his cholesterol went down to 250. His triglycerides went under 200. Another 2 months after that, his cholesterol was 180. His HDL went up to 75. And that was basically just from the diet and having him go for like a 10-minute walk every day. So this proved to me beyond the shadow of a doubt. Plus, I was friendly with Dr. Robert Atkins because Dr. Atkins had his office only about a mile away. So I would see him frequently and we would chat together, and he would tell me all types of clinical pearls, which was really great. So I learned the hard way, but I also learned from experience. So it's my knowledge on this is not so much book knowledge or being an intellectual. It's more hands-on in the street, actually seeing what happens when you do it.
Okay. Well, I do feel better myself eating a carnivore diet than anything else, regardless of my background as a Caribbean person. Uh, I do better with eating meat. My blood type is O positive. So is everybody else in my household. We're uh, all five of us are O positive. For we're not the universal donor, but close to it. Uh, all right. Rick has no idea what his blood type is. Uh, Rick has been carnivore for 42 years.
Well, if Rick has been doing well, he's probably an O. But if he wants to find out, Rick can go to the drugstore or the health food store. He can buy a little blood typing kit. They cost about $15. You take the kit home, you prick your finger, get a couple of drops of blood. You're going to put it on a special chemically treated paper, and it's going to tell you what your blood type is.
Very good. So over the counter, you can buy a kit, huh?
Yep, you can get it over the counter.
Very good. All right. So let's see. We have a couple of questions here. I think we went through this one already. All right. So someone wants to know, I guess they are AB. What about AB blood type?
AB is the most modern blood type. It's the newest blood type to evolve, the AB. And according to Dr. Diadamo, an AB does better eating a little bit of everything. Not being a vegetarian, not being a carnivore, but a little bit of everything. That's where the AB seems to do his best. The true omnivore, let's say.
All righty. This is not a question, just a comment. Monica from Wyoming, blood type O negative. Okay. And I have been carnivore diet for 2 years, but my free T3 and 4 are low, but within range. I have all the symptoms of low thyroid. Do I need to add carbs?
There are some schools of thought that would tell you that you do need some carbs to raise those. If particularly if you look at Dr. Weston Childs and his research, he would probably tell you that you may want to try adding a small amount of carbs and see if that comes up. I would say that that could be true, but I would also want to look at your blood work. I'd want to look at your reverse T3 if they're doing it. I'd want to see your fasting insulin, and I'd want to see your cortisol levels, because high reverse T3, high cortisol, high fasting insulin can all have this effect. Also, if you have the availability to do a tissue hair analysis, you want to see if you have elevated copper or elevated mercury or arsenic, because that could also cause the same problem. So you've got a couple of things to research there.
And I'm glad you mentioned multiple hormonal systems. I mean, the thyroid is an endocrine system, right, that affects all the cells, but all the hormonal system affect each other. And you mentioned no,
It's like a symphony. Yeah,
yes,
it's literally like a symphony.
exactly. I no more explanation. You explained it. They work kind of in unison, and it's a symphony.
So let's look at it this way. On the bad side of when we're talking about thyroid, on the antagonistic side of thyroid, you primarily have cortisol and estrogen. Cortisols and estrogens both downregulate your thyroid hormone. And on the other side, testosterone and progesterone, whether you're a man or a woman, help to upregulate your thyroid hormones. So you could also take a look at how those other hormones are affecting you.
Whenever I've been a physician for almost 41 years, and whenever I had a patient with cholesterol numbers that were out of whack for whatever reason, before I consider any medication, I would make sure the thyroid was correct, because with a very dysregulated thyroid, I wouldn't even look at the cholesterol levels until the thyroid was completely within normal.
Yeah,
If
I
it
would
needs
agree. I would
supplementation,
agree.
th- then I would do that before addressing any cholesterol levels, which uh, unfortunately I don't find that many people connect. They should connect those two in their mind. As a provider, you shouldn't be correcting uh, deficiencies in one system which without making sure the other was are working optimally, and
Yep.
they do have interaction. And with endocrine systems, it's never only one way. There
Right.
is feedback regulation
loops. Yeah.
between
Yep.
them.
Yes.
So, all right.
80% of the
So,
cholesterol in the body is made by the liver. Most people don't know this. And what
yes.
regulates the liver in producing cholesterol are your adrenal glands, your adrenal hormones, and your thyroid hormones. If you're under stress, your liver makes more cholesterol. There have been studies where they've looked at the cholesterol levels of accountants in late March and early April, and they're through the roof compared to and during the summer. And that just goes to show you your body makes cholesterol in order to make hormones, all types of hormones, but particularly stress hormones. So there you go.
Yeah, well, cortisol, it is a cholesterol based structure, and all the sex hormones, uh, most of the hormones in our body do depend on cholesterol for formation, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, uh, vitamin D, definitely. Let's see, we have a couple of other questions here. Let's take this. Kat says, I am A positive. Just curious, what sort of diet does well with that type?
This is more a vegetarian type of diet. You don't have to be a strict vegetarian, but it's somebody who would more emphasize an Asian diet, is what I would say. That's per the book from Dr. Diadamo.
All right. Brian, is this the blood type test he suggests? And he just, uh, I guess Eldon Card might be a brand.
That's it.
Uh,
Yeah, that's it. That's one of them. Absolutely. There are a few brands. That's a popular one, but that's it. Yes.
all right. Aisha, husband and I are carnivore. My toddlers are low carb. What is the least inflammatory fruit and veg for them, for the toddlers? Cucumbers, etc., are technically fruits, less anti-nutrients than true vegetables.
We know the first thing I want to go over here, which we haven't because the word anti-inflammatory has come up. When I talk about eating a meat-based diet, the type of meat I'm talking about is grass-fed. When you compare grass-fed meat to corn-fed beef, it's almost like you're talking about two completely different foods. Grass-fed beef is very anti-inflammatory in itself. It has a much higher level of omega-3 and 6s, while the regular corn-fed beef is higher in arachidonic acid, which is an antacid, as opposed to linolenic acid, which you find that opposes that. So that's one thing before I forget that I do want to mention about that is when we talk about a carnivore diet, we're not talking about McDonald's. We're talking about grass-fed beef or um, meat from animals, which are basically free range, etc. Not farmed fish. Farmed salmon is worse for you than you would ever believe. It's disgustingly toxic. Wild caught salmon is a miracle food. So didn't want to leave that out.
Do do you eat and when I buy salmon, I'll buy a wild caught salmon, but I like to eat it raw, sashimi style.
Hmm.
Do you eat do you eat salmon raw?
No,
No? Okay.
no. My wife
I
calls our
usually
my wife calls our house the house that parasites built because I made a very good living over the years treating people for parasites. And unfortunately, when you eat any kind of raw pork, raw fish, or whatnot, you run a really high possibility of of, of acquiring parasites. So I don't eat anything raw. No, no animal food raw.
so when I eat sashimi and I basically I buy the salmon wild caught. I put it in the freezer for about 4 weeks before I thaw it out and I eat it according to FDA suggestions. That should minimize. It's not going to eliminate. I am aware of that, but minimize the chances of parasites.
Well, also when they eat sushi in Japan, they eat it along with different spices, things which tend to kill a lot of the parasite eggs. So if you're doing it very traditionally, but it ends up being very hot and spicy what they eat in Japan when they eat sushi, and they use ginger, they use a lot of things which are anti-parasitic, and in America, a lot of the people don't do that. They haven't learned that, so
So
that's more the proper way.
even though it's not carnivore, I will eat it with a little bit of ginger and wasabi, and I don't mind hot stuff. I love hot stuff. Uh, I have some ghost peppers in the refrigerator.
Some of my favorites, and vinegar also. Apple cider vinegar is
Yes.
used a lot in the preparation, and apple cider vinegar is one of the things that also kills the larvae of the parasites when they're in your stomach, so that they never grow.
Yeah, I have a lot of that as well. But I still go through the freezing process. What you get in restaurants, it may have never been completely frozen at any point, so there might be a little bit more of a risk
Hmm.
uh, when consuming from a restaurant sashimi. Anyways, I'd like to ask you a little bit about fasting, and uh, so let me give you a little bit of my personal story. 2 years ago this week, actually, uh, diagnosed myself with, well, I got up in the morning, went to the bathroom, peeing blood, no pain, no symptoms of anything. Painless gross hematuria equals cancer until proven otherwise. And it was bladder. Week About 4 weeks later, Thanksgiving week, 2 years ago, had tumor removed, and I incorporated certain things, including fasting, uh, especially during my treatments, which was 6 weeks of intravesical BCG attenuated tuberculosis as an immunotherapy, which is the preferred treatment for bladder cancer. So I incorporate fasting 2 days before, 2 days after my treatments. Actually, before and after my surgery, I also fasted a few days and relied heavily during my treatment, especially on fasting, among other things that I did. Uh, Most recently, I did Dr. Kills did a 15-day fast, and about the same time, I was doing what I ended up being a 22-day fast. And I'm always looking to be in nutritional ketosis because I think that that is not the best environment for cancer to return. Uh, but what do you think about fasting?
I've done many fasts in my life. The longest one was 40 days, and I've done a lot of 7-day fasts. I use fasting therapeutically frequently with patients. It's hard to get them to do it in this day and age. But
Hmm.
scientifically, there's a tremendous amount of data you can find on the internet if you Google fasting and whatever illness or whatever you want. There's a lot of factual data to back up the efficacy of fasting. Fasting is a very valid treatment.
And fasting is also been practiced for thousands of years uh, in different religions, right?
Hmm.
And I grew up in still a member of a religion that may use fasting, but I never fasted more than probably 12 hours until I became carnivore. I was doing a very low carb diet for about 6 months, and then I went carnivore. So 3 or 4 days after my going carnivore, I got up one morning and I was absolutely sure, 100%, that that day I wasn't going to eat because I felt from the moment I got up that I didn't need to eat. So I skipped that day. For the first time, I did a more than 24-hour fast. And I was already 63 or 62 when this happened, by the way. I'm 65. So I had never fasted, even though growing up, we would go to church and it's a day of fasting, but it was never more than a 12 hours thing. Uh, but of course, there are multiple benefits derived from fasting. People who have studied this talk about the autophagy, mitophagy, increasing growth hormone, and things like that. So, how many times have you done a 40-day fast?
Once, just once, 40 days.
Okay.
I've done 7 days, probably about 8 or 9 times.
Yeah. So, I don't think I did it 22 days. I'm planning to probably do a 40-day the beginning of next year. But not everybody needs to fast that long, I think.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
My
I agree.
personal opinion is that throwing in a little bit of fasting on a regular basis, and I do time restricted eating. I only eat once a day or twice a day. I try not to eat in between meals, and then I try to skip one day of eating a week. Okay. Occasionally 3 to 7 days. But if you do at least skip a day, I believe it has a cumulative effect on your positive effect on your health,
Hmm.
and it's not an extreme thing. Getting people to fast 7 days, it is hard, much less any longer than 7 days. I agree with that.
Especially
All
depending on your clientele. If you have Italian or Jewish clientele, it's almost impossible to get them to fast that long. But
I think there are definitely many cultures. Uh, you know, uh, the holidays are coming, and I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. All my family's Puerto Rican. My son, who was born here in the United States, married. His wife is from Cuban extraction. So whether it's a family reunion on their side or my side, there is always going to be a lot of food
right,
and nobody that fasts.
yes,
The only the only person probably that's fasting is me.
well,
Uh, which it has happened. It has coincided with whether it's a birthday reunion. Italians are the same way. There's no silence in any household when there is a family reunion, and there is plenty of all kind of food. All right, let me see if we have any other questions here. This is a comment, but you mentioned grass fed, and so let me read the question. Aisha, I try to eat grass fed as much as possible. I like to have enough money to get a half cow from my local rancher.
yeah, that's
Uh,
usually a good deal if you can. When you do that, that's usually a good deal. You can also
yeah.
go in with a few people to buy a half or buy a whole.
Now, there are some people who have noticed something basically you mentioned. Uh, we do know there's a nutritional difference between a grass fed, grass finished animal
Hmm.
versus one that has been grain finished.
Hmm.
They're all grass fed for most of their life, but uh, the finished basically is 60, 90 days of adding a lot of grains. And we do that because the steaks end up being more marbled, more fat in them, and so on. And some people like the taste more. I've noticed when I buy something that is grass fed, I can probably taste a little bit of the taste of the grass that animal was eating.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Uh, so,
I have a book
but
to recommend for people. The
okay,
the book is called Animal Factory, and it's written by David Kirby. This is an essential read if you're interested in this subject matter.
all right. So Brody, raw salmon and tuna is the way to go. One of my favorite things on the planet. All right. Brian asks, is wild game good to eat? Should you get grass fed and grass finished or grass fed grain finished?
Wild game is definitely good to eat, and you're most likely, if you're getting real wild game, it's most likely going to be grass fed, and that is the way to go as far as I'm concerned.
And I was mentioning before that some people are more sensitive than others. Sometimes when you eat a chicken that's basically being fed all kinds of grains, which is not exactly the natural dime. It's not that they do better with eating bugs and a little bit of even grass, but they are looking for bugs all the time.
Hmm.
Their natural diet is not corn or soy or wheat or any of the grains. So some people get reactions to chicken, or they don't feel well, and they get sometimes vague symptoms or more specific symptoms, as opposed to eating a pasture raised chicken without antibiotics or at highest quality because of what they are eating.
That's true. You can be allergic to what the animal's eating.
Yeah. All right. Uh, Coach Juliet is saying that Google be positive and read no nuts. Very true for me. I'm not allergic, but they are very inflammatory for me. I used to love peanut butter prior to eating carnivore.
Peanut butter contains aflatoxin B, which is highly inflammatory, and also it's again, is it organic or not? There's a big difference between foods that are grown organically and foods that are not. So I could definitely believe that you could have some trouble there.
Okay. Kat says, I work in a clinical microbiology, and it has been a journey moving from cooking well, she means well done meat, to
Hmm.
more rare. I recently started eating egg yolk raw in some dishes, which is a big leap too.
Okay.
Um, I get
I
you mentioned you don't eat anything raw, so I
Yeah,
imagine
I don't know that
raw.
I would eat raw eggs, especially if they weren't of very high quality, because you don't know about the salmonella content of a raw egg. Um, there's also the old story about how the raw eggs affect your biotin metabolism. That with raw eggs actually can kill the biotin in your system. So I don't know about it. I don't know what to tell you about that. That's something you have to live. You have to live and learn with, and see how it affects you.
Aisha says she eats raw quail eggs with uh, her sashimi. So good.
Okay, more power to you. Raw food, generally, for the most part, we should be arguing for these things because raw food generally is much healthier than when you cook food. But again, you've got to look at sanitary conditions.
So for a while now, I've been basically cooked the meat uh, black and blue, basically. So seared both sides. Middle is basically rare. Um, all right. If you have any other questions, please put them in the chat. Yeah, I'm a little bit behind on the comments and questions here. Uh, we don't have too much time. However, want to talk to us a little bit about the candida? You mentioned candida earlier.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about that, and you do have some books and some information on that.
Now, Candida is an organism that lives in everybody's intestinal tract. It's native to any mammal. Everyone has candida. All animals have candida, but the idea is you only have a little bit of it. And once it grows out of control, it can cause up to 150 different symptoms and a whole slew of different illnesses. It can cause allergies, it can cause arthritis, it can cause rheumatoid arthritis, it can cause a host of GI diseases. And unfortunately, people don't figure it out because the illnesses and the symptoms can be totally disrelated. Like candida in one person could cause rheumatoid arthritis and at the same time give them a rash. So how is the person going to figure out this rash has anything to do with my arthritis? You see, it produces so many different symptoms. But what typically happens is when a person first develops candida, the first thing they notice is they're tired, unexplainably tired, and they start having mental confusion, or if they start forgetting things. They walk into a room and they say, why am I in this room? What am I doing? Why did I come in here? They forget people's names. Then as it advances, they start noticing a lot of GI problems. They get bloating, gas, constipation, or diarrhea, depending on what their biome looks like. So it's a lot of GI problems. Then allergies start. They start having food allergies, airborne allergens. If there's mold in the house, they now start reacting really badly to being in their home with the mold. And eventually, they can develop arthritis and many other autoimmune illnesses. I have some doctor friends who believe that Hashimoto's is all from candida, that every autoimmune condition, MS, whatever it is all from candida. As candida gets worse, you develop leaky gut syndrome, which is where the candida damages your gut lining and it creates tiny tears in your intestinal tract that allow anything that enters your intestinal tract to enter your bloodstream, and that sets off more autoimmune reactions. And about 30% probably of the US population at any given time has candida. The primary cause of candida is iatrogenic, which means doctor induced. It's usually from antibiotics or steroids or antacids or different medications, but you can get candida just minding your own business if you have too much stress, too much drugs, too much alcohol. Even if you swim in a chlorinated pool and you swallow too much of the water, that chlorinated water can kill your friendly bacteria. And that's really what it's all about. Having something like candida is all about the balance of your probiotics versus the bad organisms in your gut. That's a condition we call dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is when the bad organisms start to outnumber the good ones in your gut and they take over and they produce disease. And the tricky thing about candida is it's very hard to get rid of. Most people are treated incorrectly. Most people are given drugs to try to get rid of it, which ultimately in the long run make it worse. And I spent 10 years researching how to get rid of it permanently correctly. And you can read all about that in my book, The Candida Chronicles.
Uh, Coach Juliet asks, is there a test for candida?
Yeah, there are several. The easiest one to access that's the most accurate is a urinary organic acid test that's done by Mosaic Labs. And they have I think it's a microbial oats test is what they call it. But that's the most accurate one that you can easily access. Stool tests are not that accurate for candida. You have to have somebody who really knows how to interpret the stool because very often candida doesn't show in the stool, even though it's there. So I would say the microbial organic acid test is probably your most accurate test. Blood tests for candida can be positive even if you've had the candida 9 months ago and it then went away somehow. So if you manage to cure your candida, the blood work for candida antibodies could remain positive for 9 months after it's gone. So that doesn't make it a good real time test. The best test is the microbial organic acid test.
And you mentioned at the beginning about the candida that it is part of our microbiome. Basically,
It
what
is.
we're talking about is when it overgrows for
Right.
whatever reason, it
Yes.
can cause all these problems that yeah you mentioned.
That's the whole point because everybody has candida. The point is, do you have too much?
Yeah. So I just posted again for the third time the Candida Chronicles and 5-phase treatment uh, with the email where you can send for the information,
Very
and you
good.
will get that in return from Dr. Biamonte. Uh, Again, the website is health-truth.com, correct?
Yes, and then there are two other sites: the New York City Candida Doctor and the New York City Thyroid Doctor. Well, I really
Okay.
enjoyed being on your show with you today. It was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for being here. I posted the website as well in the chat, so everybody request that information on the Candida and go to his website if you want to get in touch with him. He's got a lot of information there. I'm sure on that main website you have links to your other
Yes, we do. We do.
website. So that's the main thing to go and find out more about Dr. Michael Biamonte.
And I'm happy to come back anytime you want me back. I'd be more than happy to come.
All right. So I think Alia was here. I don't know if she left. Uh, but for everybody that's here and you're part of the Kills Mighty Tribe, we have a Zoom call at 5:30. So in about an hour and a half, I will be there. Uh, we do have a guest, and I'm sorry I can't remember right now who it's gonna be with us. Uh, Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., like every Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. live stream with Dr. Kills and Alia and me, and frequently we have visitors. So that's not too early for you, that right, Michael?
No, hell no.
6 a.m. Okay,
I'm not a
so
musician anymore. In the old days, I would just be going to bed at that time. But no, no, those days are over. All right, well, thank you very much. I'm going to need to run, and it was great being here. And like I said, I'd be happy to come back anytime.
all right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Dr. Biamonte, and you have a good day.